Before we begin, I would like to officially, on behalf of Royal City Literary Arts Society and Silverbow Publishing, recognize and acknowledge the Kikite First Nations and all Coast Salish peoples on whose land we live, work, and play. So on behalf of Silverbow, I'm really happy to introduce to you Carly Herriges, who is a writer from Tucson, Arizona. She graduated in 2018 from Falmouth University with a degree in journalism and creative writing. In her free time, she enjoys reading books on her endless to-be-read list, watching far too much television, and singing karaoke with friends. This is her second poetry collection. So take it away, Carly.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm going to start with a mini series that I included in this book. This book is mostly about grief and fear and my relationship in part to crime stories. So this is a short series that I included. So the first is The Men Are Always Teaching.
Can we just name the book ahead of time? I should have done that.
Oh, sure. This is my book, Grief is a Circle.
Thank you very much.
So this is The Men Are Always Teaching. When the man pretends to drug my drink, he tells me it's for my own good, scolds my wandering eyes, my small talk, my too loud laugh, says I am lucky he's here to protect me. Lucky he's here to teach me. I am 17 minutes past the legal drinking age and I've already learned so much. I should be thanking him, really. I heard a rumor later that he drugged another girl for real. I wonder if he scolded her. I wonder if he laughed at her. I wonder if he made her say thank you. This one is The Men Are Always Watching. While I pump my gas, the man offers to check my tires. While I browse the produce aisle for the ripest avocados, the man says his grill makes the most tender steak. While I'm waiting for the cashier at the bookstore, the man asks if I've ever read Bukowski. While I'm serving him at work, the man asks if I have a boyfriend, a husband, if I'm one of those lesbians or something. While I walk to my car, the man shouts at me to show him my tits. The men are always watching, always hungry, always waiting. Sorry, I lost my page there. This is The Men Are Always Talking. The man I share a cubicle with tells the only other man in the office about his weekend, about the girl he did coke with in the bar. I could have done whatever I wanted. She was so far gone. She wasn't even watching. No one was there with her. And in this language, the girl in the bar is prey and predator, bait and fish, hunted and hunter, because this man considers his presence an even exchange for her body, and he set the trap, offered her a bump, bought her a drink, but she took an Uber alone, didn't even give him her number, and they call her gold digger, call her tease, call her a bitch, but I have only known her for the length of this conversation, and I am just so glad she made it home safe. And the last one in this little series is called The Men Are Always Helping. I work at a theater, and one weekend a month I take the late shift. It is 2 a.m. My back hurts from standing. My cheeks hurt from my customer service smile. My coworker offers to walk me to my car. And in the empty parking garage, as we circle the giant drain to my Camry, he jokes that even if I screamed and the sound left my mouth bouncing off of every concrete pillar and eventually disappearing into the air, no one would hear me. Jokes that it was polite of me to bring my own car so he won't get blood in his trunk. We stop at my car and the jokes stop with us. He tells me to drive safe, to buckle up, to make sure my doors are locked, keep the neighborhood out. You never know who will try to get in. So after I read a poem like that, I try to read a poem a little bit kinder. This one in particular is about my father who is watching, so I also get to embarrass him a little bit. It's after a poet, Olivia Gatwood, whose work heavily influenced this book. So this is The Killer is a Father Too. There is a fear in my chest hearing about the men who laugh while the women struggle to breathe. I see in my mind a photo of my father, young and blonde-haired, before my mother, before his serious job. His limbs are long and lanky. He has never held a baby, has never put something small and fragile between his palms, been responsible for not squeezing its head between them and crushing it like a grape. Why does this remind me of my father? Why does it make me fear him? It is at this point, reader, that I am compelled to tell you my father is a good man. He was a good man then. He grew into a good husband and a good father and a good grandfather. I say all of this in the hopes that you do not fear him. I've always just been afraid of men and their potential to become beasts. This lanky teen image of my father that makes me afraid is an alternate version of him, the version that took a different road, who tasted blood the first time he was punched by his brother and never rid himself of the craving for more. But in truth, my father is the same man who, when playing mermaids with his children in a pool at the height of July, scooped a bee out of the water, placed it in a spot of sun, and made us watch until it flew away. The same man who risked being stung to show his small and fragile daughters that his hands would not be a cemetery for small and fragile things. This next one I put together while scrolling a news website. So it's called a Been Found poem, which is sort of put together from all of these pieces. He's not even trying to call her phone. He's not asking any questions, any questions, any questions, any questions. Considering there were 6 children in the house, this could have been much worse. He couldn't even lug groceries up the stairs. This is just like a movie I watched on Netflix. It's not unusual for the authorities to discover dead bodies, dead bodies, dead bodies, dead bodies in the back of vehicles. He hid her away and made it so no one could help her. He pled not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. He said he would drive her home. Witnesses said they had a bad feeling. Witnesses said they reported a crazy guy watching them. She hasn't been found, been found, been found, been found alive. This next one is essentially trying to explain how my love of crime stories is tangled with my grieving of people. So it's called Tangled. I don't know how to talk about grief without also talking about death. What can I call the empty space inside of me? Isn't it the place where he stuck the blade? Isn't it the place where the bullet exited? Isn't it the vein I emptied to feel full? What else could I think when he stabbed her but that being in love can kill you? What else can I do when he chokes me but scratch under his skin until his skin is under my fingernails? What else should I say when they ask me how I am, but at least I am alive? I don't know how to grieve when there's a new dead woman in the news each morning. Do I call in sick to work? Do I call my therapist? Do I call an ambulance? Maybe it's why I'm always looking for signs, why I pick up feathers from the sidewalk, why I hear the ocean screaming with me. How can I bury the dead girl if I cannot grieve her? How else can I tell you she smiled like I did in that photo of me wearing my favorite blue sweater? How else can I tell you that her favorite karaoke song was my favorite karaoke song? And how am I supposed to fall in love when I know the person meant to catch me is cutting the ladder from the fire escape, is taking the batteries out of my smoke detectors, is pouring gasoline on my bed sheets, or maybe he isn't doing all of those things, but he could. I saw the gas can in his garage. He took a packet of matches from the hotel we stayed in. There's a word for giving someone the rope to hang you and hoping they tether themselves to you instead. A word for standing on a cliff's edge with his hands on my shoulders. Is it just love? Is it only trust? Is it writing my own obituary to save my mother the trouble of doing it? So I'll move on to something a little bit lighter now. Towards the end of the book, I try to go into more lighter subjects and celebrating. So this is a love poem about the moon and the sea. The fat full moon hangs yellow on the horizon. It takes up the whole of the sky and casts a lantern glow on the ocean below it. The light is kissing the water but cannot keep it warm, and the sea can stretch its limbs into the air, but weighed down with heavy with salt and gravity, it can never touch the shore of this distant lover. Instead, it rages with a violent crash, turning stone to sand. While the children shriek and play in the tide, the sea is wailing, longing for the moon. The moon is thinning, waning with sorrow in the inky black distance from its love. How badly it wants to swim in the valley of its deepest trench, to hunt for treasure among its ruins, to know where it hides, whatever it is it hides from human hands. The moon is a sliver of light in the distance, hard to see among the lights of ships and cruise liners, where grubby faces press into the glass and fill the air with the stink of the living and the loud. In the distance, the whales are singing. They're following the ebb and flow of the waves and call to the moon, please don't go away. Where do you go when you leave? Who else do you pull on if it is not the sea? The moon is too far away to be heard, but it is crying out as well. There is no other. I go nowhere, but instead am pushed from you by the cruelty of the earth's relentless spin. There is no one, no one, no one but you. This is called The Ways I've Loved You. If all of your freckles are kisses from past lives, then I have loved your shoulders most. In every life, I've placed my lips on the warm curve of your jaw. The point where your hair sprouts from your temple must have been my haven. I must have praised your hands, each lumpy knuckle. I must have kissed your ring finger and promised you forever. If you had fallen down, I would have kissed your knees, knobby and knocking and restless to dance. If every freckle is a place I have kissed, then I must have worshipped your nose, its perfect placement on the plane of your face. I must have needed to taste the sun on the highest points of you. I must have savored it, the golden scattering across your cheeks. If my lips were the paintbrush and you were the canvas, I would have created a masterpiece and would hang it in the Louvre and label it with gold embossed letters, the lovers, my signature on every corner of you. If each of your freckles are kisses from past lives, then I have loved you well in each of them. And when I find uncharted waters on the map of your skin, when a new pale valley lays out before me, unfurled from the country of you, I will chart new constellations, new mythologies for future generations to look upon, point to, and say, there is where love once lived. It left its mark for all of time. This last one is also the last piece in the book. It's called An Ode to Things That Make Me Proud to Be Fat. I cannot tell you what it is to move as a fat girl any more than the ocean can. When the typhoon stares down the barrel of the shore, spews and spits and fills the air with its brine, daring for someone to fight it for space, to insist it doesn't belong here in this place where it lived before there was anything else. And how can I tell you about fighting for space without telling you about monsoon season in Arizona, the way summer begins on the heels of winter, the way the cracked and dry desert sand splits open like a chasm, the way the rain breaks through the sky in a blink. There is no warning, no sprinkle or cool wind, only the shout of thunder before the shower. Then the chasm is filled, the green deepens to emerald, and all at once it's gone again. It only came to remind the ground of its taste, to tease the graves with life. And how can I talk about life as a fat girl without pointing to my grandmother's grapefruit tree, sinking under the weight of heavy and ripe bulbs? How the tree will be more pink than green, how we will wait until the branches are brushing the dirt beneath them before plucking the treasure with our bare hands. The harvest will all but fall into our palms, eager to fill our bellies, to water our throats with its sweet, sour juice. I cannot tell you about the eagerness to fill without also telling you about the moon, full and shining each month, sitting on the horizon, how we nearly forget it's there until it slips into view, forces us to stare in awe and remember how much control it really has. And the meteor showers, those distracting show-offs, how easy it is to gain attention as a fat girl. Everyone is already staring. Everyone is already looking at the open, dark sky of you. So if you have their attention, you might as well wow them. I want to tell you what a gift it is to be the fat girl in the room, how exciting it is to know that you garner the most attention, that you are the sunrise over the river, you are the mountains in the middle of the valley, you are the single source of water in the desert. Even when they hate you, they need you to stay alive. Thank you.
Wow. I have to say, I also heard your first reading for Good Advice from Bad Women, and they're very different poem. They're very different type of poetry, but in some ways there is a connection between the two, in the sense of the kind of biased view of women and how that affects their lives, and how their lives are shaped sometimes by that. And yet these women that I'm hearing in this collection are aware. That's the sense I've got. Does that make sense? Or
yeah, absolutely. I think in the first book I wanted to talk about womanhood in the way that we learn how to be women from each other. And in this one, I sort of wanted to focus more on how being a woman can be undermined by people who maybe sometimes don't even realize that they're doing it.
yeah, and you do that really well in the poems that you read here.
Thank you.
Accomplished what you intended to accomplish.
Thank you.
I might just ask you one question, because I know that you're not able to stay around for a while. I just wondered about what inspires you. Where do you get your inspiration?
Oh man, kind of everywhere. I spoke a little bit about Olivia Gatwood. She has a book called Life of the Party that heavily inspired this book and the sort of themes that I wanted to talk about. I also get a lot of inspiration from my environment. So I talk a lot about the desert. I compare it a lot to how we live. And definitely I have a good landscape to do that out here. But yeah, sort of anything. There's a small series in the book that is inspired by a television show called Criminal Minds. So I think that it's possible to get it anywhere, even from something as simple as like a cop procedural.
Absolutely. And one of the things I note about you is that you are an ardent reader. And so your brain is absorbing all kinds of information that, as you say, and television.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I say that I don't like to be alone with my thoughts too long. So I'm always consuming some kind of media, books or movies or TV, something like that.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right, I'm really looking forward to reading the book, and I'm just going to hold it up here if I can. There we go. Grief is a Circle. Go out and get your copy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.